Uh, yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm audible. All right, okay, good. Yeah, so let's begin our current affairs class today. And the first topic that we are going to deal with is related to the Ukraine issue, right? So we'll begin our session today with intense discussion on Ukraine issue. We'll be looking into the entire aspect related to the Ukraine issue. But even before we go ahead, I have an announcement to make to you people that from Monday onwards, we are beginning with a series in which many students had this issue that the number of topics करते हैं सृष्टि उसके ऊपर करेंगे, but today we'll be starting with the first topic, and that is Ukraine issue, because Ukraine is more important than SIDBI report on MSME. SIDBI report on MSME हम next time के लिए postpone कर रहे हैं. Now, before going ahead, like many students, and even I do feel this thing that we covered 3 topics or at the max 4 topics in our Saturday class, and then many of the topics they are not covered per se in this current affairs class. So what we are doing is we are going to introduce this weekly current affairs class on a daily basis from Monday onwards, right? So Monday onwards, there will be a daily current affairs class at 2:30 p.m. live on YouTube. All right, live on YouTube, Monday onwards, 2:30 p.m. We'll have our current affairs class live. All right, subject wise. That is, Monday, there will be a current affairs of polity and governance. Tuesday, there will be current affairs of economy. Wednesday, there will be current affairs of science, environment, and geography. All right. Thursday, there are going to be current affairs related to international relations and any other historical event which is there in news. On Friday, there will be current affairs related to social issues. And Saturday, any topic that is left from Monday to Friday, we'll cover in our Saturday class. So Monday to Saturday, 6 days, you are going to get current affairs, weekly current affairs class. So by this way, your coverage is going to become really vast. All right. So like, for example, from last Monday to this Saturday, whatever polity and governance issues were there in news, they will be covered on Monday. From this last Monday to today, that's Saturday, whatever economy current affairs were there, which are important from examination point of view, they will be discussed on Tuesday. All right. Similarly, geography, science, and environment, this week's important topics will be discussed on Wednesday. All right. So this is how we are going to go ahead with the weekly current affairs, dividing the weekly current affairs on a daily basis, subject wise, so that it's going to bring a lot of topics to you people, help you understand the concepts in that particular week itself, right? So by this way, we are going to increase our coverage, and Saturday current affairs class will be as it is that I'll be taking here. All right. So today we are going to start with the topic, and that is Ukraine issue. I watched a lot of videos on see, when it goes down to the Monday to Friday weekly current affairs class, there will be 45 minutes to 1 hour class. All right. Yes, absolutely. See, Nandini, definitely that is the reason that I am bringing to you that series, because it's going to be as comprehensive as we are covering our Saturday class. All right. So that's how we are going to do it. All right. Monday. So the faculty who is expert in polity and governance, they will take the lecture on Monday. The faculty who is expert in economy will take the lecture on Tuesday. Similarly, the faculty who is expert on environment, geography, and science and tech will take the class on Wednesday. So this way, Monday to Friday, respective faculties will come and take their current affairs class at 2:30 p.m. right? And then in the weekend, I'll give you the entire recap telling you about what topic was covered. And at the end of that, we'll also cover our remaining 2 miscellaneous topics. And I'm planning to even go for value enrichment of this Saturday class so that it becomes a really great learning experience for all of you people. All right. करते हैं. Japjit will we see. Let's first start with the see. Let me tell you, there's something known as making a great plan. When we go for making a very great plan, if we just spend entire time upon planning itself, then sometimes it becomes the situation that when that plan is not executed. So we are going to take a very piecemeal approach. That is, we are going to start with something, and then we'll keep on enriching it to make it the best product to offer to you people. All right, so from Monday onwards, we are starting our weekly current affairs class subject wise, and every Saturday I will come again to give you a complete recap of the topics that were done, as well as we'll do some of the miscellaneous topics which were left from Monday to Friday. These classes will be purely online. Monday to Friday there will be live classes. You can attend live classes on our YouTube channel, right? On Saturday we'll be meeting Zoom plus YouTube. All right. Okay, fantastic. So let's begin today our discussion on the Russian aggression on Ukraine. What I realized is that I watched a lot of videos that are there on YouTube about Ukraine and Russia crisis, but I find that they are very shallow they have been crafted for the sake that they had to cover that topic. I didn't even find even a single class that talked about the historical association of Ukraine and Russia. They didn't talk about that they had what was the association of Ukraine and Russia before the Soviet Union era. What was the association of Ukraine and Russia during the time of Soviet Union era? What are the relations of Ukraine and Russia post Soviet Union up till 2014, and what relations of Russia have been with Ukraine after 2014? If you don't get this complete glimpse, then my dear friends, your knowledge about the Ukraine crisis is very shallow, and you have to really go into this intricate depth to understand, because this thing is going to have rampant repercussions. So I'm going to give you this comprehensive picture of Russian aggression on Ukraine with a historical association and analysis. So let's begin our class today, and we are going to discuss the first topic, and that is Ukraine-Russia crisis. Ukraine-Russia crisis. Well, even going ahead, I would like to tell you that let's look into Ukraine-Russia relations. Ukraine-Russia relations. That at one time they had the common ancestor, then they were part of the common union, then they diverged, and today they have become enemies. So this tale of friendship to foes is what is Ukraine and Russia relation. It's a feud that is there between two countries that have one singular origin, and today they are the arch enemies of each other. So if we have to look into Ukraine-Russia relations, we are going to look into Ukraine-Russia relations in pre-Soviet era. We are going to look into Ukraine-Russia relations during the Soviet era. We are going to look into Ukraine and Russia relations in the post-Soviet era up till 2014. And we are going to look into Ukraine-Russia relations post-2014, which has resulted into the present fight that is there between Ukraine and Russia. So let's first talk about Ukraine-Russia relations in pre-Soviet Union era. All right, pre-Soviet Union era. Now, if we look at the pre-Soviet Union era, the place where we have Russia, Ukraine, and Central Asia today, at that place there was something known as Kievan Rus. All right, the place where we have today Russia, even before Russia was there, even before Ukraine was there, even before Belarus was there, even before many other prominent kingdoms were there, there was an ancestor of all these Central Asian countries that is known as the Kievan Rus. The Kievan Rus that you can see on your screens, which is given in the red shaded area, this Kievan Rus is the ancient Rus, or it is the polity in the 10th century under the Byzantine Church, from where Russia, Ukraine, and other Central Asian republics have their emergence from. So Kievan Rus, my dear friends, Kievan Rus, this is the ancient Rus, or this is also known as the Kievan Rus. It is the 10th century polity, 10th century empire, from where all other republics of the Soviet Union emerged. All right. You know that Soviet Union is the group of countries. Before Russia, there were a group of 15 countries together that were known as Soviet Union. All those Soviet Union republics, they have, or most of those republics have their emergence from ancient Rus or the Kievan Rus. Now, this Kievan Rus was a polity in the 10th century, but then, like all other polities, the Kievan Rus, it experienced, all right, it experienced feudal fragmentation. So I'll say the Kievan Rus underwent feudal fragmentation. लड़ाई हो गई इनमें. All right. The differences emerged. When the differences emerged, feudal fragmentation of the ancient Rus or Kievan Rus took place. Now, not only that, in 13th century AD, the Mongoloid Empire or the Mongols, they attacked the fragments of the Kievan Rus Empire. All right, let me summarize. Let me explain it again to you. Even before Russia was there, even before Ukraine was there, even before many of the Central Asian republics were there, this Central Asian region was collectively under a single empire in the 10th century that was known as the Kievan Rus, from where all other Central Asian republics emerged. Now, earlier it was a very homogeneous empire where the command was under a central agency, but then regional powers emerged within this large empire and they started wars with each other, such that this Kievan Rus got fragmentized into, or it got fragmented into numerous small sub-empires with constant war with each other. They were fighting with each other, but in the meantime, south of the Kievan Rus, over this region, the Mongols attacked the Kievan Rus Empire in the 13th century. Now, when the Kievan Rus was attacked by the Mongols in the 13th century, the Mongols captured the southern, all right, the Mongols, they captured southern provinces, but the northern provinces, they united together and formed what is known as Russia. All right. When the Kievan Rus was attacked by the Mongols, the southern region was captured by the Mongols, but the entire northern region was brought under a single control. They all united together into a single country or empire called as Ukraine. That is, if you look at the southern province, that's the Ukraine region. Ukraine region came under the Mongol control, whereas Russia remained outside the Mongol control, and therefore Russia emerged as a very large country, right? Is it clear, everyone? Okay. Now, when the southern provinces were under the Ukraine control, the southern provinces, they had a group of population known as Cossacks. Southern provinces, they had the ethnic population, and that ethnic population was known as Cossacks. The Cossacks people, they rebelled against Mongol Empire and demanded integration with Russia. Because why they demanded integration? Because the southern provinces, they shared tremendous cultural resemblance. They shared common culture with Russia. All right. So what happened? When the Mongols attacked the Kievan Rus fragments in the 13th century, the southern part of the Kievan Rus was taken under control of the foreign rule, which also included today's Ukraine region. Whereas the northern provinces, they united together themselves into a single rule, and that rule was called Russia. Now, the provinces which were under the foreign rule or the Mongol rule, which also included the Ukraine region, it had population which is known as Cossacks. Now, Cossacks population, they rebelled against the Mongol rule or the outsider rule, and they wanted to be integrated with Russia. Why? Because the Cossack community, it had significant amount of overlapping with the Russian population. The Cossacks community had common culture. The Cossacks community had common language, and the religion that was professed by the Cossacks and the people of Russia was similar. Is it clear? So the Cossack people, they wanted to join Russia. Now, Russia freed the southern provinces. All right. So Russian Empire fought the Mongol Empire again and brought the Ukraine region under its sovereignty and considered the Ukrainians and Belarusians as little Russians. All right. The Russian Empire brought back the Ukraine and Belarus under its control. And the Russians, they refer to Ukraine and Belarus as little Russians. They refer to Ukraine and Belarus as little Russians. But a periodic stay of Ukraine under the Ukraine under the foreign rule also created a mixed race. Apart from Cossacks, the foreign occupation also gave Ukraine its own kind of people who later came to be referred to as the Ukraine nationalists. All right. So there were Cossacks who wanted to be integrated with Russia, But you know that Belarus and Ukraine, they were under the foreign rule for a quite good amount of time, that resulted into new races develop in Ukraine region, such that apart from the Cossacks, these new people in these new people in Ukraine, they wanted to create a separate country called Ukraine and not to be associated with Russia. All right. However, the foreign occupation, in Ukraine region, it created a class of Ukrainians that want, all right. However, the foreign occupation in Ukraine region, they created a class of Ukrainians that want a separate country, want a separate country, and they were the Ukrainian nationalists. All right. So that's how Ukraine got the mix of two kind of people, pro-Russia and pro-independence. Pro-Russian people are the descendants of the Cossack ethnic community. And then because of the foreign rule within Russia, within Ukraine, a group of people emerged that wanted a separate country for themselves, and that's known as Ukraine nationalist. But Russia managed to capture Ukraine region. Russian Empire managed to capture Ukraine region under its own control from the Mongols. And this control of the Russian Empire upon the Ukraine region remained till 1918. All right. Ukraine was made part of Russian Empire from Mongol control. All right. And this remained till 1918. What happened in 1918? What happened in 1918? Anyone? 1918 is the year of? Yes, it's the year of Russian Revolution. It's the year of Russian Revolution. All right, it is the year of Russian Revolution. Now the thing is, when Russian Revolution took place, Russian Empire came to an end. And the regions that were under Russian Empire forcefully declared themselves independent republics. All right. So when in 1918, so after Russian Empire captured the Ukraine region from the foreign control, it kept the Ukraine region within itself. But then Russian Empire, the Russian Tsar, the Russian king, He was controlling all the regions in a very centralist manner. However, there were many regions in the Russian Empire that were forcefully made to be part of Russian Empire because the Tsar was very powerful. In 1918, when the people of Russia revolted against the Tsar in the form of Russian Revolution, it provided an opportunity to those regions which are forcefully integrated to be part of the Russian Empire to declare themselves as independent republics. All right. So they declared themselves as independent republics after the Russian Revolution. Let me introduce another image. Hold on. If you look at this image on your screen, you see include all these territories together, which are of different color. Include all these territories together, and this will give you the idea of the Russian Empire. All these countries, they were those autonomous regions which wanted freedom from the Russian Empire. This green boundary is the boundary of the Russian Empire, my dear friends. This green boundary is the boundary of the Russian Empire. Now, within this Russian Empire, there are many autonomous regional regions. There are many autonomous regions. These autonomous regions, all right, these autonomous regions, they wanted freedom from the Russian Empire that was provided in 1918 when Russian Revolution took place. All right. So when Russian Revolution took place, Russia became one country. All right. Russia became one country. Then Estonia, number 2 here, Estonia. Then Latvia, then Lithuania. All right. Lithuania, Belarus, Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, right? Armenia, Azerbaijan, all right? Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, all right? Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. These 15 countries break apart from the Russian Empire. These 15 countries break apart from the Russian Empire. However, because these 15 republics had a lot of cultural ties, people to people ties with each other, they decided to enter into a common union with each other. And that union of the 15 countries under the leadership of Russia is known as Soviet Union. All right. So because of the Russian Revolution, on 22nd January 1918, Ukraine came into existence. On 22nd January 1918, Ukraine came into existence as an independent republic along with 14 other republics that emerged out of the Russian Empire after Russian Revolution. All right. However, in 1922, these countries, these republics, they came under a common union. These countries, they formed a common union, and that common union is known as USSR, which is also known as the Soviet Union. These 15 countries in 1922, they came under a common union, and that common union, my dear friends, is known as USSR. That stands for Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. That is Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, which are known as, in common terminology, Soviet Union. So these were the relations of Russia and Ukraine before emergence of Soviet Union. Is this point clear to everyone? Till this point, everything is clear, right? Okay, good. Now, relations during the Soviet era. Relations during the Soviet era. During the Soviet era, the relations between Ukraine and Russia, they were mostly friendly relations. They fought the World War II together. They fought, or they were the part of the Cold War together, right? So the Soviet era relations were mostly friendly. You can see from the friendly relations that in 1954, Kremlin, what is Kremlin? What is Kremlin? Haji, bilkul Raman. All right. What is Kremlin? Kremlin is Russia's parliament. Kremlin in 1954 gave the Crimean Peninsula to Ukraine. All right. In 1954, the Russian parliament gave the Crimean Peninsula to Ukraine. If you want to have a look at the Crimean Peninsula, just a minute, I'll just show you. Hold on. All right. If you look at the Black Sea in your atlas, if you look at this particular region, this is the Black Sea. When we magnify the Black Sea, you are going to see there is a peninsula into the Black Sea, which is known as the Crimean Peninsula. All right. So this region is the Crimean Peninsula, and Russia or Russian parliament gave the Crimean Peninsula in 1954 to Ukraine, right? So during the Soviet era, the relationship between Russia and Ukraine were very friendly. This can be seen from the cooperation that Ukraine and Russia showed during World War II as well as the Cold War. It is also seen from the fact that in 1954, Russia gave the possession of Crimean Peninsula to Ukraine. There is another peninsula here. This peninsula is known as Kirch Peninsula. UPSC can ask you the question, Kirch Peninsula is surrounded by what water bodies? It is surrounded by Sea of Azov towards the north, and it is surrounded by Black Sea towards the south. All right. Let me make it more clear to you. Hold on. This is very important geography question. This is the Kirch Peninsula. The Kirch Peninsula, it is having Sea of Azov in the north and Black Sea in the south. And the water body that connect the Sea of Azov with Black Sea is known as Kerch Strait. Geography based question, very important. Okay. Now let's come and discuss the relationships between Ukraine and Russia after the collapse of the Soviet Union. So now we are going to talk about post-Soviet Union relations. All right. See, During the Cold War, Ukraine was with Russia, and Russia installed in Ukraine a large number of nuclear weapons. Just in case there is a war with the West, with NATO, Ukraine's nuclear weapons can be used by Russia against the NATO forces. When the Soviet Union collapsed, when the Soviet Union dissolved, Ukraine got its independence and inherited the third largest stockpile of the nuclear weapons in the world after US and Russia. Ukraine got third largest nuclear stockpile after Russia and US. All right, Russia or US के बाद में Ukraine had the third largest nuclear weapons in the world. However, Ukraine was not free to use it because the operational control was still with Russia. However, in 1994, Ukraine practiced nuclear disarmament. In 1994, Ukraine practiced nuclear disarmament, and this nuclear disarmament brought all the nuclear weapons from Ukraine to Russia. In Budapest Memorandum on Security Assurance, the Ukraine signed the Budapest Memorandum on Security Assurance. All right, that is in Budapest. In which country do you find Budapest? Where is Budapest? Hungary, right? So in 1994, Ukraine signed the Budapest Memorandum on Security Assurances with the world powers like NATO, that we are giving back our nuclear weapons. We are going for nuclear disarmament. If tomorrow we are threatened, we would want your support, because right now, because of a nuclear free world, because of nuclear disarmament, we are giving away our strategic nuclear stockpile back to Russia. Are you getting my point? So Ukraine showed very good intentions in the name of nuclear disarmament. It signed the Budapest Memorandum on Security Assurances with the Western countries that we are going with nuclear disarmament and we need security assurances from you. In 1996, Ukraine transferred all the Soviet era nuclear warheads that it had with itself. Ukraine joined in 1994. In 1994, Ukraine joined the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Ukraine joined the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Those of you who do not know what is a Non-Proliferation Treaty, according to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, any country apart from the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, if that country signs a nuclear proliferation treaty, they will never develop a nuclear weapon. And if they have already developed the nuclear weapon, they will give away all their nuclear weapons to International Agency on International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA. All right, are you getting my point? So in 1994, after signing the Budapest Memorandum on Security Assurances, Ukraine joined the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and by 1996, Ukraine was completely free of nuclear weapons. Nuclear gave away all the nuclear weapons of Russia back to Russia. All right? क्योंकि उसको assurance मिल गई थी कि कल अगर कोई तकलीफ हुई तो NATO और Western countries हमारी help करेंगे. All right? Now the thing is, after getting free from Soviet Union, after the collapse of Soviet Union, Ukraine showcased an inherent tendency to join with NATO and European Union. अब बात आती है झगड़े की. From 1996 onwards, or let's say after the collapse of after Soviet Union, Ukraine expressed desire to join European Union, and all right, after Soviet Union, Ukraine expressed desire to join European Union and what? And NATO. You know that even if the Cold War was over, Russia would never want NATO or the allies of America anywhere close to its border. This desire of Ukraine to join European Union and NATO became the bone of contention, between Russia and Ukraine. Russia from time to time tried to please Ukraine by giving concessions, all right, by giving concessions to Ukraine that you should not join NATO, we are there to help you. But why did Ukraine choose to go for NATO and European Union? Number one, they were free now. They were out of the clutches of Soviet Union. The NATO bloc was more advanced compared to the Soviet Union bloc. So Ukraine, after departing from Soviet Union, wanted to proceed towards industrialization, and it wanted to be developed like the Western countries. So it had an inherent inclination towards European Union and NATO. And after it expressed its desire to join European Union and NATO, Russia practiced the policy of arm twisting, as well as you can say carrot and stick. Sometimes they tried to please Ukraine by giving concessions not to join NATO, and sometimes they showed stick to Ukraine that if you are going to join NATO, we are going to hit you. All right. So for example, when for the first time or in the earliest time when Ukraine showcased intention to join NATO or European Union, at that time Russia revoked its 1954 Kremlin decision to give Crimea to Ukraine. Russia said that we no longer consider Crimea to be the part of Ukraine. Ukraine agitated by further taking step towards joining European Union and NATO. So Russia said, okay, fine, we are not going to take away Crimea from you. We are going to extend your possession of Crimea till 2017. So first they showed stick, now they showed carrot. So the thing is, Russia played both carrot and stick policy with respect to Ukraine to prevent Ukraine from joining NATO. All right. However, this desire of NATO, this desire of Ukraine to be part of NATO and European Union that was rising up in the year 2000, it came to its peak in the year 2013 when Ukraine was going ahead with signing the association agreement with the European Union. All right. So Ukraine expressed desire to join European Union and NATO. It started, let's say, in the early 2000s, and it peaked in 2013. In 2013, Ukraine wanted to sign. In 2013, Ukraine wanted to sign association agreement with the European Union, and if this would have been allowed, Ukraine would have become almost the part of NATO, which was never ever expected or was to be tolerated by Russia. All right. So in 2013, Ukraine wanted to sign the association agreement with the European Union. However, the president of Ukraine at that time, Viktor Yanukovych, he suspended the preparation of signing of this European Union association agreement and sought closer ties with Russia. All right. However, 2013 Ukraine president, the name of the president of Ukraine at that time was Viktor Yanukovych. Viktor Yanukovych, he took a U-turn and sought closer ties with Russia. This decision of Viktor Yanukovych was not liked by many people in in Ukraine, and in February 2014, Ukrainian Revolution took place. This decision wasn't liked by many Ukrainians. And it resulted into February 2014 revolution, Ukrainian Revolution, in which the government of Yanukovych government was ousted. All right. So February 2014 Ukrainian Revolution led to Yanukovych government being ousted from the power. Yanukovych government was ousted from the power, right? Because he was looking for close relations with Russia, which was not liked by many pro-European Union people in Ukraine, and his government was thrown out of power. After this revolution that happened, Russia annexed Crimean Peninsula. Russia annexed Crimean Peninsula. When Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula, the Western countries imposed a lot of sanctions upon Russia because it was seen as if Russia has taken territorial possession of the part of some other country. All right. So Russia took control over the Crimean Peninsula. All right. Let me paste this diagram here again. Hold on. Okay. If you look at Ukraine and Russia, Ukraine is a kind of divided between two group of people. In Ukraine, the people are divided into two different groups. The Eastern Ukraine has pro-Russian people, Crimea has pro-Russian people, whereas Central and Western Ukraine, they have pro-European Union people. So now people in Ukraine, they are having two different alignments. People in southern Ukraine and eastern Ukraine, they are tilted towards Russia, who want Ukraine to have closer ties with Russia, whereas central and western Ukraine want closer ties with the West, that is NATO and European Union. So because Ukraine decided to sign the European Union, because February Revolution in Ukraine dethroned the government of Viktor Yanukovych, who was pro-Russia, it became evident to Russia that sooner or later Ukraine is going to become part of European Union and later NATO. So Russia took a very strong step and brought to end the 1997 understanding between Ukraine and Russia that this Crimean Peninsula was to be under the possession of Ukraine till 2017. Russia broke that an understanding and took control of the Crimean Peninsula under its own sovereignty. It is from 2014 onwards that the seeds of the current situation were sown. The current situation is the product of not just 2014 Crimean crisis, but it started the day Soviet Union collapsed. Many of the former Soviet Union republics became the part of NATO. For example, the Baltic states of Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, they became the part of NATO. And many of the former Soviet republics, they were showing inclination towards NATO and the Western countries. That means that such an inclination of the particular neighbor country like Ukraine would have brought NATO on the borders of Russia. Russia would never expect its arch rivals NATO to be just their neighbor, right? So in 2014, Russian people took control, or Russian army took control of Crimea, and Russia started ideological support to the people who had pro-Russian orientation in eastern Ukraine. This eastern Ukraine region, where there is high concentration of the Ukrainian people, high concentration of Ukrainian people who support Russia. This region is known as Donbas area. All right. So in 2014, Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula and the global community put sanctions upon Russia. Not only that, since 2014 onwards, Russia is extending support to pro-Russian separatist groups in eastern Ukraine. In eastern Ukraine. And Russia was also removed from G7. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Not only that, Russia referred to those. So the thing is, Russia extended support to pro-Russian people, pro-Russian separatist people in eastern Ukraine, and he called the pro-Russian separatist people as People's Republic. Russia supported the idea of People's Republic. That is, Russia supported the separatist groups in eastern Ukraine. The region that was having pro-Russian attitude is the Donbas region. So the eastern Ukraine region that I'm referring to is known as Donbas region. It is known as Donbas region. It is known as Donbas region. This Donbas region, it comprises of two oblasts or two provinces. Two oblasts. Oblasts are just like states in case of India. The two oblasts that are part of Donbas region, it is the first one is Donetsk, and the second is Luhansk. All right. So in the eastern region, अभी जो पंगा चल रहा है वो पूरा डोनबास रीजन के ऊपर है. So Russia supported the separatist people. So Russia took the control of Crimea, and Russia provided support to the eastern Ukrainian population that had pro-Russia attitude and wanted them to create People's Republic for themselves. The region that has pro-Russian sentiment is known as Donbas region that comprise of two oblasts or two states. The first is the Donetsk state and the second is Luhansk. Let me show you the diagram. Hold on. Yeah. So if you look at this infographic from BBC, this is Ukraine. All right. This is the eastern Ukraine. This is the Luhansk region. This is the Donetsk region. And in this region, in these two regions, this is the Luhansk Oblast and this is Donetsk Oblast. Here, Russia is sponsoring anti-Ukrainian sentiments as well as separatist sentiments. And in 2017, Donetsk and Luhansk, they came out of partial control of the Ukrainian government. In 2017, Donetsk and Luhansk, they came partially outside the control of the Ukrainian government. All right. So Russia was supporting the separatist groups in Donetsk and Luhansk such that in 2017, Donetsk and Luhansk, that's the Donbas region, they partially came out of Ukraine control. And if you remember, a few days back, Russia declared Luhansk and Donetsk as two separate republics. All right, recently, Russia declared Donetsk and Luhansk as two different republics. Yes, Russia occupied Crimea to blockade Crimea from the Black Sea. After Ukraine was denied Crimean Peninsula, Russia encircled. All right, you look at this. When Russia took control of the Crimean Peninsula, Russia brought a complete check to any kind of sea access to Ukraine. Russia denied, or this is known as the sea blockade of Ukraine by Russia. Russia took the control of the Black Sea completely. Jabjeet, it is not matter कि all other countries reconsider Donbas region to be a separate country or not. It's Russia which recognized them as independent country and started establishing diplomatic relations. All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now in 2021, Ukrainian president appealed to the United States and asked the United States to let Ukraine join NATO. This is like Russia became totally infuriated when Ukraine explicitly put forth demand before the United States that the United States should let it join NATO. Russia would have never tolerated Ukraine to join NATO, because if Ukraine joins NATO and then Russia attacks Ukraine, then it will be equivalent to Russia declaring war against all the NATO states. All right. So in 2021, next important development took place. Ukraine explicitly demanded membership of NATO. All right. Sarthak, because of the fear of Russia. All right. Now When this news broke out to Russia that Ukraine has demanded to be part of NATO, Russia started building its troops on the borders of eastern Ukraine. Russia demanded NATO to give up its military activities in Eastern Europe and Ukraine. All right. Russia would never tolerate, all right. Russia would never tolerate NATO to be present on its adjacent borders. And finally, this February 22, Russia declared a full-fledged war. Full-scale war on Ukraine. अब देखो, before going ahead, I want to tell you something. Why is India not joining Non-Proliferation Treaty? This is the reason. Budapest Memorandum on Security Assurance told Ukraine, give up your nuclear weapons, we are there for you. Who is there for Ukraine? Nobody. Had Ukraine had its nuclear weapon, today Ukraine would have had significant deterrence that Russia would not have gone with the full-scale war. There may have been limited skirmish, but today Russian forces have entered Kyiv. Why? Because Ukraine is helpless. This is the reason that out of goodwill, out of India's goodwill flow for global peace, we are still not signing the NPT and giving up our nuclear weapons. We will sign non-proliferation treaty only on one grounds, that the treaty should recognize India equivalent to a nuclear weapon that is equivalent to the 5 permanent members of United Nations Security Council. Is this clear, everyone? Okay. And there is a very, very famous doctrine of Palmerston. All right. There is a very famous doctrine of Palmerston. There are no permanent friends in international relations. There are no permanent enemies. There are only permanent interests. Right now, it is not in the interest of NATO members to help Ukraine, so they are not helping. Are you getting my point? And Ukraine is made the scapegoat and severely punished by Russia. So if we look at what are the major issues that are there in the current crisis, देखो सिर्फ sanctions लगाने, see, Russia has already prepared itself. Russia has already prepared itself to face any kind of sanctions. Previous sanctions have also not. अरे नंदिनी, अभी तो बताया मैंने आपको, बुडापेस्ट मेमोरेंडम ऑन सिक्योरिटी अश्योरेंस एक अंडरस्टैंडिंग थी यूक्रेन और वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज के बीच में कि अगर कल यूक्रेन जब अपने न्यूक्लियर वेपन्स वापस दे देगा और कल यूक्रेन के ऊपर कोई मुसीबत टूटेगी तो बाकी देश उसको बचाएंगे. दैट वाज द बुडापेस्ट मेमोरेंडम ऑन सिक्योरिटी अश्योरेंस. और यूक्रेन उसकी दुहाई देते देते थक गया, कोई देश मदद करने नहीं आया. ऑलराइट. मोदी जी ने जरूर पुतिन को फोन कर दिया कि रुक जाओ, है ना. और जी टीवी बोल रहा था मेरे को कि मोदी की सुनेगा पुतिन, अब देख लो कितना सुनेगा. ओके ओके जपजीत. right. Okay, now let's look into what are the major issues that surround the current conflict. So what are the various issues surrounding the conflict? First is NATO. NATO is North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is a group of 30 countries that include US, UK, France. No, Sarthak, Chernobyl was not under Russia since Ukraine signed NPA. No, Chernobyl has been taken under control by Russia in this particular war. So the first issue that surrounding this conflict is NATO, that Ukraine should not join NATO. Russia will never allow NATO to be taking over Ukraine. So NATO stands for North Atlantic Treaty Organization. All right. it is having some 30 countries which are under the dominance of countries like US, UK, France, all right, Germany. So they are the NATO countries. Okay. So the NATO, it came into existence. Yeah, NATO came into existence in 1949. All right. It is having headquarters at, where are the headquarters of NATO? Tell me quickly, where are the headquarters of NATO? NATO headquarters are in Brussels, in Belgium. Right? So NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, Ukraine should not join the NATO under any circumstance. This is the first consideration of Russia with respect to the war, right? Second, Ukraine, why Russia didn't start war when Baltic? Because, okay, because Baltic countries, that region was not a big threat to Russia because that was not adjacent to the Russia border. Just, you see, Ukraine is providing the direct land access to a large Russian border. All right. Ukraine will provide NATO land access as well as sea access. All right. Whereas in case of the Baltic countries, the region is very north, number one, and second, the border is also very small. But the thing is, Ukraine is a very fertile ground for NATO to enter Ukraine. So that's one of the prominent reasons. All right. So Russia doesn't want NATO to allow Ukraine to become its member, and this is the single and the biggest reason for Russia to start the war against Ukraine. See, there is the Article 5 of the Washington Treaty. Article 5 of Washington Treaty. The treaty which is in principle the founding treaty of NATO. Article 5 of the Washington Treaty, it says that it gives the principle of collective security. It gives the principle of collective security, that is, any external aggression upon a NATO member is equivalent to aggression upon all the NATO members. So if Ukraine becomes the member of NATO and tomorrow because of some reason, you see, Ukraine is the one prominent member of Soviet Union which had bitter relations, whose relations with Russia got deteriorated continuously since 1990 when the Soviet Union collapsed. Belarus is still very good friendly relations with Russia. Second prominent partner is Ukraine, and therefore Russia would never tolerate Belarus as well as Ukraine to become part of NATO. Because Belarus is already having good friendly relations with Russia, the only notorious player is Ukraine, and if Ukraine joins NATO and tomorrow any conflict emerges between Ukraine and Russia, then Russia will be engaging not just with Ukraine but all the NATO members. Right now, the NATO members will not interfere because it's not the violation of Article 5 of the Washington Treaty that gives the principle of collective security. Because of this reason, Russia will never tolerate Ukraine to go for joining NATO. Is it clear? However, we can straight away say that the Russian aggression into Ukraine is violation of the United Nations Charter. United Nations Charter, Article 2. Absolutely, Sarthak, that's right. All right. Now, Russian attack or Russian aggression has been referred to as violation of, it has been referred to as violation of UN Charter, Article 2, Subclause 4. Russian aggression is considered, or Russian aggression is believed to be violation of United Nations Charter, Article 2, Subclause 4. Article 2, Subclause 4 of the United Nations Charter require the members of the United Nations to refrain from using force or threat of using force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. Here, Russia has invaded on a full-scale war into Ukraine, and therefore Russian aggression has been considered as violation of Article 2, Subclause 4. Russian attack, since it is a violation of Article 2, Subclause 4 of UN Charter, Ukraine has all the rights to use force against Russia, but then Ukraine is simply, all right, but Ukraine is simply stooge, so is simply very powerless is in compared to Russia. All right, so this is related to the war that has happened. Now, how did the Western countries responded to this war? The Western countries presented a very, very minimalistic response. Before the war started, they were trying to deter Ukraine that the consequences will be disastrous if Russia is going to attack Ukraine. But after actual war has taken place, the consequences are very minimalistic. For example, the West is only targeting Russia's economy, industry, and individuals. There is no hard reaction of the West upon Russian aggression into Ukraine. Russia's economy, Russia's industry, and Russian individuals who hold tremendous amount of property elsewhere, only those people are targeted by the Western countries. For example, if you talk about the European Union has restricted Russian access to the capital markets in European Union, and also cut off the latest industry and also cut off the Russian industry from the latest technology. Are you getting my point? So let's talk about how did the world react. Immediate measures तो कुछ लिया ही नहीं ना आकाश. Long term measures, see, एक हिंदी में ना बहुत बड़ी बहुत पुरानी कहावत है, मार के बाद पुकार है. The one who takes the first offense is always the victorious, because after that things eventually fade out. Are you getting my point? फिर वही बात हो जाएगी, appeasement. After World War I, the appeasement policies towards Nazis resulted into World War II. If there is violation of international law, that must have been strongly retaliated by the entire global community, but that did not happen. Rather, the response of the Western countries was very minimalistic. All right, it's very minimalistic. For example, European Union just restricted the Russian industries and people to have access to the capital markets of European Union and access to the latest technology of the European Union. The European Union has imposed sanctions on 351 member of parliaments who supported Russia's recognition of the rebel groups of Donbas region as independent country. Right? See, Kirti, I'm not saying that it should have been world war. It should have been, the countries should have provided material support as well as manpower support to Ukraine. They would not have attacked upon Russia, but they could have provided material support to Ukraine. Like today in the morning in the news, there was a news article flashed that Zelensky has been offered evacuation by the United States of America, and in return the president of Ukraine said that we do not want airlift, we want weaponry. All right, Ukraine was left in this war alone, and the consequences are seen by everyone who is there. Germany, if we talk about European Union just abstained Russia from having access to its latest technology as well as the capital markets. European Union put a ban upon 351 member of parliaments of European Parliament who supported Russia's recognition of Luhansk and Donetsk region as independent republics. If you talk about Germany, Germany has halted the approval on Russia's Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. No other hard action that was taken. If we talk about the United States of America, USA will cut off Russian government from the Western financial institutions. UK says that all major Russian banks will have their assets frozen, as if Russia cares. UK said Russian national airline Aeroflot will also be banned from landing in the UK, right? The 3 Baltic states, they said that Russia must be thrown out of the International Financial Exchange institution, that is the SWIFT program. Now the thing is, the world should have taken a very resolute action against such a step. Why? Because this is going to give a lot of courage to other countries which are powerful but have weak neighbors to go for territorial aggression into such countries. For example, China. China do not consider Taiwan to be an independent country, rather its own territory. So tomorrow China can also start a war against Taiwan. Now, what happened with Ukraine will also going to be happen will also be going to happen with Taiwan. China's territorial ambitions will get a lot of support because of the global community playing very soft politics against Russian aggression. Are you getting my point? Right? So such incidents will be considered as an example to why countries should have. Okay, that's true. So the thing is Russian aggression has resulted into complete devastation of Ukraine. Now you know that NATO is constantly extending itself into Russian neighborhood. All right. So let me show you an image where NATO is extending into Russian neighborhood. So I'll show you a contrasting image of 1997 pre-1997 and post 1997 scenario. Just a minute. Yeah. If you look at this diagram is showing you two contrasting timeline images, 1997 NATO and post 1997 NATO. You look at Russia. This is Russia. NATO, the dark purple color is NATO in 1997, which has countries like Sweden, UK, Poland, Belgium, France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, right? However, there are many countries which were not part of NATO in 1997, and these countries were the part of the former Soviet Union. For example, the Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. All right, Romania, these countries were not part of NATO before 1997, but after 1997 these countries have also joined NATO. So NATO is moving towards Russia, and Russia therefore does not want NATO to proceed further. It has already compromised its border at the Baltic states. NATO is present in its border in Baltic states, so it's a threat there. All right. So Russia would not have tolerated NATO to become part of Ukraine. Otherwise, a large portion of Russian border would have been accessible to the NATO forces. If you look at the NATO after 1997, the countries like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, all right, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, this is Romania, all right, Slovenia, Croatia, all right, Montenegro, Albania, North Macedonia, and Bulgaria. These countries have already become part of NATO since 1997. All right. Yeah, exactly. Russia want the countries that joined NATO after 1997 to exit NATO. But here things are happening exactly opposite, that the countries are joining NATO further, such that NATO is expanding towards Russia, and this has made Russia threatened. And the threatened Russia has gone with the repercussions which the world is witnessing right now. India is not part of NATO, Ramanpreet. No, India is not a part of NATO. Okay. So now let's look into what are the impacts of this war on India. India is not a member of NATO. Okay. Now, impact of Russian aggression on India. भैया सबसे पहली चीज, this war has resulted into inflation and crude prices. First, crude prices, they will go up, leading to inflation in India. All right. The Russian-Ukraine war has resulted into rising oil prices, which are further going to increase India's rising inflation. You know that India imports more than 80% of its oil requirement. However, India's share of oil imports in its total import is 25%. Yes, Brent crude oil, certainly. Right? So India will witness inflation and reducing current account deficit. Sorry, the current account deficit will rise up. The current account deficit will increase. Inflation will increase. Second, India is facing a diplomatic dilemma. India is facing a diplomatic dilemma. Absolutely. Okay. Tea and coffee trade will be negatively hampered because India exports tea and coffee to the Russian region as well. And if the sanctions are imposed, then yes, the tea and coffee trade is going to suffer. Brent crude prices will go up. Inflation will go up. Now, talking about the diplomatic dilemma of India, India is having close relations with the US. At the same time, India is having its military supplies 60 to 70% having hardware from Russia. And we cannot go for making Russia irritated against us during the time when China is constantly showcasing teeth to us. Are you getting my point? China is having border tussle with India that can escalate to a limited war anytime in near future. In fact, there was a recent report by Pentagon that India can see a war either with Pakistan or China in the next 2 to 3 years. All right. So China is constantly poking India with regular border incursions. Are you getting my point? And Russia is our old friend as well as a traditional military alliance. That is India's nuclear hardware, India's weaponry has 60 to 70% hardware from Russia. At the same time, US is our other strategic friend. So in that scenario, we are diplomatically torn apart, right? So India is facing a diplomatic dilemma. Another is India's diaspora interest in Ukraine and Central Asia. You can say Indian students and diaspora. Indian students and diaspora. There are approximately 20,000 Indian students studying in this part of the world where there is war taking place. 20,000 Indian students and nationals, many of them live very close to Ukraine-Russia border. All right. All right. Now, many of these students are enrolled in medical colleges of Ukraine, and India has also emphasized that it was concerned about the safety of its civilians because of the war. Yes. Then India's impact exports will be hampered. Indian exports will suffer. Russia is India's 25th largest partner with exports of 2.5 billion US dollars and imports of 6.9 billion US dollars. India's key exports to Russia include mobile phones, pharmaceuticals. All right. So India's exports will be hampered immensely. At the same time, Russia provides India with crude oil, coal, and diamonds. India exports tea and coffee, mobile phones, and pharmaceuticals to Russia, and imports from Russia crude oil, coal, and diamond. And all these are going to suffer, right? Ukraine Ukraine imports goods from India to the tune of 372 US dollars. All right, 372 million US dollars trade is exports. 372 million US dollars worth of exports India sent to Ukraine. They are hampered. With sanctions imposed upon Russia, India's exports of mobile phone, pharmaceuticals, as well as tea and coffee will be severely hampered. India's imports of crude oil, India's imports of coal and diamond from Russia is going to negatively affect. So the war is not even good for any country in the world. All the countries suffer because of war, and India is already witnessing the disastrous impact. All right. India is already witnessing disastrous impact with Indian currency coming down by 99 paisa since the start of the war. Indian currency has become weaker. Indian currency has come down by 99 paisa since the beginning of the war. It shows that yes, war has resulted into some severe blow to Indian economic interests. Is this clear to all? All right. Okay, good. Chaliye. Now, sometimes in context of Ukraine and Russian relations, you come across the terms like Minsk agreements. So let me explain you the Minsk agreements. In which country will you find the city of Minsk? Current account deficit reduce हो रहा है, global market crash कर रही है, Indian share market witnessed a severe fall on the day this war started. Very good. Minsk is there in Belarus. Belarus. Now, in 2014, Ukraine witnessed armed resistance from pro-Russian groups that demand separation from Ukraine. All right. In 2014, Ukraine witnessed armed resistance from pro-Russian groups that demand separation from Ukraine. In September 2014, the Russian-backed separatist group and Ukraine came to a ceasefire deal, which is known as Minsk I agreement. In September 2014, Ukraine government and separatists, they signed a ceasefire deal, and that ceasefire deal is basically known as Minsk I agreement. Minsk I agreement. This agreement quickly broke down. It quickly broke down, leading to Minsk II agreement. Minsk II agreement. Now, in the Minsk II agreement, the representatives of Russia, Ukraine, Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, and the leaders of the separatist regions of Luhansk and Donetsk, they sat together and signed a 13-point agreement in February 2015. So, Minsk II agreement took place in February 2015 between Ukraine, Russia, leaders from Donbass region, Donetsk, and Luhansk, plus Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. All right. Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. All right. It led to leaders of two pro-Russian separatist regions signing 13-point agreement. These 13 points, all right, these 13 points talked about bringing peace and mutual cooperation in this particular region. But you know that these Minsk II agreements and Minsk I agreements were also not sufficiently strong enough to prevent this full-scale war between Russia and Ukraine. This is the complete picture of Ukraine and Russia conflict. Is it clear to all? I hope now you will not require any other as such so-called YouTube videos on Ukraine and Russia conflict. This is the comprehensive understanding and developments that took place between Ukraine and Russia related to their present conflict. Now, we still have some time. I'll talk upon a very important guest pipeline that is being developed between Russia and Germany, and that is Nord Stream 2 pipeline. So as part of this topic itself, let's discuss Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Nord Stream 2 pipeline, it was in news because Germany has taken steps to hold the process of certifying the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. After Russia attacked Ukraine. All right. So if you look at the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, the Nord Stream is a 1200 kilometers. Japjit, that will be a blessing in disguise for India. Okay. So that's a silver lining that you can certainly point out. All right. So Japjit has given a very good idea that, sir, in impact, can we write down the benefit of wheat, that now India can export wheat to Egypt, which was earlier coming from Russia and Ukraine. तो बिल्कुल लड़ाई में अपॉर्चुनिटी मिल गई इंडिया को, और इंडिया विल बी एबल टू सेंड व्हीट टू इजिप्ट. ठीक है, चलिए अच्छी बात है. दैट्स अ वेरी पॉजिटिव underlining to this war. Okay, good. All right, Gopi, I'm coming to it. Hold on. Okay. So Nord Stream 2 pipeline in news because Germany halted this project after Russia attacked in full scale over Ukraine. If you talk about the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, it is a 1200 kilometers undersea pipeline, undersea gas pipeline. It is 1200 kilometers undersea gas export pipeline. Which sea? Which sea I am talking about? The sea is Baltic Sea. The sea is Baltic Sea. Now, this Nord Stream 2 pipeline will, let me show you a diagram first. Hold on. Yeah, it's a gas pipeline from Russia to Germany. It is 1200 kilometers. It is 1200 kilometers subsea export gas export pipeline from Russia to Europe or Russia to Germany. So here in this diagram you can see there are two lines. One is green and second is the dashed purple line. All right. नहीं, Nord Stream नहीं, Nord Stream 2 को ही करा अभी इन्होंने. So you see this dash pipeline, this is Nord Stream 2, which is running parallel to the Nord Stream 1. The green solid line is Nord Stream 1 pipeline, and the dash purple pipeline, the purple line is basically, all right, is basically the Nord Stream 2. All right, the Nord Stream 2. Now the Nord Stream 2 pipeline has to transfer the gas and oil from the Western Siberia Bovanenko oil and gas condensate deposits. The pipeline was supposed to transfer oil and gas condensate from Bovanenko, all right, from Bovanenkovo oil fields in Western Siberia. Western Siberia के बोवानेंकोवो oil field से oil and natural gas condensates were to be transferred using this pipeline to Greifswald in Germany. All right. To Greifswald के पास एक जगह है, that is Lubmin. From Greifswald to Lubmin. Sorry, pardon me. This gas pipeline was supposed to transfer natural gas from the Bowanenkovo oil fields in Western Siberia to Lubmin, that is near Greifswald. To increase the quantity, Gopi Meg, to increase the quantity. So there is Nord Stream 1. It was set up it was completed in 2011, and it is from Vyborg in Western Siberia. It is from Vyborg in Western Siberia to Lubmin, Greifswald in Germany. Whereas Nord Stream 2 was to be developed from the place called Ust-Luga. Ust-Luga in West Siberia to Lubmin in Germany. All right. This Nord Stream pipeline is very important both for Europe and Russia. Europe's Nord Stream 2 is very important for Europe as well as Russia. Nord Stream importance for Russia. Number one, if we talk about Russia, Russia exports 40% of its budgetary sale of gas and oil. 40% of Russia's budgetary sale of gas and oil is coming from Nord Stream pipeline. So it is very important source of foreign exchange reserve for Russia. Second, being under sea, no transit operation cost. So it's a cheaper way of transferring your oil and gas. Okay. And third, it increases Europe's dependence on Russia. It increases Europe's dependence on Russia. Okay, so it's very important for Russia diplomatically, economically, as well as strategically. Economically, 40% of the budgetary resources for sale of gas and oil for Russia is coming from this pipeline. Strategically, because this pipeline is under sea, there is very cheap way of transferring your gas and oil. You don't have to pay any operation cost as well as transit cost. And third, because your gas and oil is consumed by Europe is more and more getting dependent upon Russia. Why? Because of the location of Europe. Europe is more feasible to get oil and natural gas from Russia rather than US and Middle East. All right. Now, if you look at Nord Stream importance for Europe, all right, if we look into importance for Europe, number one, Europe's 40% energy resources, it come from this Nord Stream pipeline. So it is very important. Second, Europe cannot procure gas and oil from US and Middle East because of distance and geography reasons. So it is dependent upon Russia for this. All right. Now, Europe depend upon Russian oil. All right. Europe depend upon Russian gas and oil. Why? It depend upon Russian gas and oil because to fulfill its European Green Deal. What is European Green Deal? That is, Europe will go for zero energy production from coal and nuclear fuel. Therefore, Europe is more and more dependent upon natural gas and oil, which are cleaner compared to coal and safer compared to nuclear. Yeah, European Green Deal, Jabjit. All right, it's European Green Deal. So Germany as well as Europe want to materialize European Green Deal. That is, they want to come out with zero energy production from coal and nuclear fuel. And for that, they have to depend upon natural gas and oil, which can come only from Russia because US and other market, other producer, Middle East is out of bound for geographical regions. Not only that, industrial production in Europe is excessively dependent upon the gas and oil coming from the Nord Stream pipeline. So the Nord Stream pipeline is energy line or energy lifeline for Europe. Are you getting my point? So that is about the Nord Stream pipeline. And Germany suspending the Nord Stream 2, but Nord Stream 1 still continuing. Bhaiya, energy to chahiye na. No one is permanent friends, no one is permanent enemies. There are only permanent interests. So this is the Nord Stream pipeline and its importance. All right, this is the Nord Stream pipeline and its importance for what? And its importance for both Europe and Russia. So I think that's the topics that we covered today. A comprehensive understanding of Ukraine-Russia relations, the grounds for war, impact of the war upon India, and the global reaction to war. Along with that, we looked into the Minsk agreements as well as the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Okay. See, Europe, particularly the countries like Germany, they are separated from US because of Atlantic Ocean, and it's not easy for you to create a pipeline across Atlantic Ocean to provide US oil and gas to Europe. Secondly, Middle East is separated from Europe because of Alps mountains, Dinaric Alps, and various other mountain chains. How come you are going to put up pipeline between Middle East and Europe? So the best way to provide Europe natural gas and oil is to source it from the oil and gas reserves of Russia. This is the second point. All right. Yes, that's right, Sarthak. Okay. Chaliye, so with this, I'll conclude the session for today, and we'll meet next Saturday. From Monday onwards, you'll be getting your subject-wise current affairs. Hope you are going to make a good use of it, right? See, India has to take a neutral stand because number one, India is a follower of non-alignment. Second, yes, US is our strategic partner, but at the same time, 60 to 70% military hardwares of India come from Russia. So India cannot take any side as of now, until and unless it becomes way too important for India to take a stand. India should maintain a neutral stand. Yes, US will try to pressurize India, but then India has to find a tactic to come out of such a pressure, right? All right, so that's all. Madhyamik mark, bilkul. Because Sarthak, NATO promises a lot of economic development as well, because the Western countries infuse capital and technology. NATO countries, they receive technological aid, financial aid from US sponsored financial institutions, whereas Warsaw Pact Garib Deshon ka group hai. That is the reason. All right, so from Monday onwards, you will be getting the weekly current affairs topic wise at 2:30 p.m. The first day, polity governance; second, economy; third, environment, ecology, geography, and science and tech; fourth day, it will be international relations, any historical event important in present context; and fifth day, social issues. Now, on the last day, I'll come with the remaining miscellaneous topics, so that your coverage of current affairs topics go wide and cover a great deal of, so that you don't have to depend on anyone else for current affairs. All right. Nandini, no country came to help. Okay. All right. So I'm closing the day for today. Have a great weekend. Be safe, be protected. See you soon. Bye, everyone.